Hello, listeners. This is Kat, and welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfics. This is a continuation of Swallow the Stars. This will be Part 26, Chapter 26, entitled Compulsive Care. Izuku doesn't meet Hitoshi at the train station the next day. Part of him really wants to. They had walked together from the station every day from middle school, and it feels weird to not do that anymore. But Izuku doesn't like waking up to an empty apartment, or eating whatever breakfast Aizawa had made and then put in the refrigerator for him. He knows it's a problem. A trauma he's going to start working through at his next session with Kiyumi-san, but the fact is, right now he can't handle it. That's why he'd been so closed off yesterday morning, and it's probably why Bakugo's words had affected him as much as they did. So, on the first official day of classes, and he resigns himself, for the foreseeable future, Izuku wakes up early and goes to UA with his dad. That in itself is nostalgic. They arrive over an hour before classes start, filing into the teacher's lounge after avoiding a swell of press at the front gate, and Aizawa goes into his office. But Izuku stays out in the main part of the lounge and curls up in the corner of one of the sofas. He doesn't have any homework, so he pulls out a notebook to start writing about quirks that he saw his classmates use yesterday. Takes him a moment to think about the order he wants to write them down in. Most powerful to least powerful, most likely to be dangerous to him personally, but then he thinks about Yayorozu with her creation quirk that is fueled by fats and enzymes or energy, and about how skinny she is despite how much her quirk must take away from her body. Izuku decides to start there, with helping people. These are his classmates, so he wants to approach the analysis differently than he has in the past. It's inevitable that he'll unveil their strengths and weaknesses, find ways to counteract their effects, but his goal this time isn't to protect himself or prepare for a fight. He's going to make sure his new classmates don't hurt themselves on their way to becoming heroes. Morning, Green Bean. A hand slips through his hair and ruffles his lengthening curls. Izuku grins and doesn't even look up from his notebook. Good morning, Auntie. Dad hasn't had coffee yet, so don't bother him. Auntie Kayama tugs at his hair as her laughter fills the room around them. All right, I won't bother him. Yet. The other teachers file in soon after, all giving Izuku their own greeting. It's been years since he routinely started his mornings here with him, but none of them think it's weird to see him here. In fact, all of them seem happy to see him. 20 minutes before class starts, Izuku packs up his notebook, tells Aizawa where he's going, steals some individually wrapped chocolates off of his Ashi's desk, and heads off to the 1A classroom. He's expecting it to be mostly empty at this time, but when he gets there, he's not even close to the first student to arrive. He'd studied the roster last night, and everyone except Koda, Sato, and Aoyama are present. Every eye in the room turns to him, and a blush creeps up fast and hot over his cheeks. Hi. He looks to Hitoshi, immediately surprised to find him out of his seat and having a discussion with Kaminari and Kirishima. They didn't even get a chance for anything more than a quick wave to each other before Ashido is hopping off of Koda's empty desk and pacing up to Izuku. Izuku, hi, I'm Ashido Mina. Her smile is blinding, settled nicely against her pink skin. She's quite pretty, in Izuku's opinion. You can call me Mina, if you want. Hi, Mina. Izuku gives his own smile, nerves settling down in the face of her confidence. I need to talk to Yayorozu-san, but you can come with if you want. Mina blinks quickly at him, but her smile never falters. Oh, sure. She settles in beside him, as Izuku walks across the front of the room and then down the aisle toward Yayorozu's desk. Say, I just wanted to ask. She starts and then stops, as if not sure how to word what she wants to say. You're a recommendation student, right? Izuku nods. And Aizawa-sensei's really your dad? He's not sure where this line of questioning is going, but Izuku's not going to lie. I'm adopted, but yeah, he's been my dad for 3 years. A month shy of that, but close enough. Aizawa-sensei's so scary. It's hard to imagine him as a dad, Mina admits, and Izuku suddenly understands. She's not accusing him of being placed out of favoritism. She's trying to see if Aizawa's going to be as ruthless all year as he had been yesterday. Izuku laughs. He's a great dad, he promises, setting his bag on his own desk and pulling out his notebook. But he's a hard teacher. He expects a lot from his students, and trust me, that's something I'm very familiar with. He smiles at her, gentle and reassuring. I don't think you have anything to worry about, though. You did great yesterday, and your quirk is so cool. A blush colors Mina's cheeks, and she looks like she's about to hug him, so he steps back quickly. Oh, she says, surprised by the sudden distance. No hugs? Izuku rubs the back of his head, fingers moving against the buzzed hair at the base of his skull. I don't really like to be touched by people I don't know, and sometimes even by people I do know. Okay, that's totally cool. Fist bump? She offers her loose fist, and Izuku grins and bumps it with his own. Awesome. See you later, Izuku. Then she trots back over to Koda's empty desk, where she sits down and rejoins the conversation with Kirishima, Kaminari, and Hitoshi. Not really sure what just happened, but feeling like he maybe just acquired a new friend, Izuku takes a seat in his desk and raps his knuckles on the empty desk in front of him. Yaoyorozu-san, can I talk to you for a second? He flips his notebook open while he asks, turning past his 5-page spread for Hitoshi's quirk and pulling up the page and a half that he'd managed to write out for Yaoyorozu this morning. The girl turns around in her seat, with a polite smile already in place. They haven't talked very much, and Izuku is kind of kicking himself for that. He'd reached out to Todoroki at the recommendation exam because it had been so obvious that something was wrong, but he'd completely missed Yaoyorozu in the process. What can I do for you, Aizawa-san? Izuku quickly shakes his head, his hand coming up as if to ward off her question. Please just call me Izuku, and I was hoping to talk to you about your quirk. If the confusion in the line of her brow was anything to go by, Yaoyorozu hadn't been expecting that request at all. It's just, I'm really interested in quirks, Izuku hurries to explain. I like to analyze them. Even before Aizawa-sensei started teaching me how to do it properly, I have a whole section on Hitoshi's quirk already, and I've been working on Todoroki-kun's as well, but I came in early this morning and started working on yours, and I just wanted to ask you about it, but if it's too much too soon, or if you find it creepy, then I don't have to... Izuku, Yaoyorozu cuts in with a soft laugh and a gentle light in her eyes. It's okay. You can ask me questions, I don't mind. My family is full of heroes. I know how important analysts are, and if you're wanting to practice with my quirk, then that's fine with me. She's so nice. Thank you. Izuku flips the notebook around to show her. This is as far as I got this morning. You can read it if you want. Shock flits across Yaoyorozu's face as she carefully, like she's afraid she'll break it, takes the notebook. You did this in a morning? Izuku, this is extremely impressive. She's reading as she talks, and Izuku watches her expressions closely to see if she's weirded out at all. But she just looks impressed, or thoughtful, or both. It's lipids, she says, pointing at the part where Izuku started to theorize what she breaks down to form the items that she creates. She points to another section. And I can create anything that I know the chemical structure of. I thought so, Izuku murmurs, already reaching into his bag to pull out the chocolates that he'd taken from Hisachi's desk. Here. He passes 2 of them to her. I saw you make a pencil for Cyril when I walked in. You should always try to immediately replace what you make outside of a battle situation. Actually, do you have a diet plan? You've heard of fat gum, right? His caloric intake is probably over 6,000 per day, but he's a little different from you. Still, I think it'd be a good idea to talk to Lunch Rush about increasing your fat intake. I can mention it to Aizawa-sensei if you want. Izuku stops talking the moment he realizes that Yaoyorozu is crying. What did I say? Yaoyorozu-san, are you okay? What's wrong? I'm so sorry. She shakes her head, lip wobbling, and brings up her hand to carefully wipe away her tears. You didn't say anything wrong. She sniffles and turns away in embarrassment. My parents are always talking to me about my image. Then I have to be pretty so that I'll be a popular hero. No one's ever... You don't think it would be bad for me to want to change my diet? There are eyes on him now. Jiro and Tokiyami and Todoroki are all paying attention. Hell, Hitoshi's eyes are on him too, though his gaze is clearly fond and far less intense as those in Izuku and Yaoyorozu's immediate vicinity. Izuku glances up at the clock and then looks back at Yaoyorozu with a reassuring smile. Yaoyorozu-san, he says, pushing as much sincerity into his voice as he can. Taking care of yourself is not bad. Making changes in your life to help with your quirk is literally the opposite of bad. It's safe. He takes his notebook back from her and gets to his feet. Come on. If we leave now, we can catch Aizawa-sensei in the hallway. You should definitely talk to him about this since he's a licensed hero and he's going to be able to give you resources that I can't. Okay. Yaoyorozu seems to have a better handle on her tears already, but Izuku still reaches into his bag for the tissues that he keeps stashed there, and he offers them to her. Thank you, Izuku. She stands up and fixes her skirt before following him from the room. And you can call me Momo if you'd like. Izuku smiles the biggest smile, and he leads her down the hallway toward the teacher's lounge. They're over halfway there before Aizawa comes into view, face hidden in his capture weapon as his leather bag is slung over his shoulder. What is it now, problem child? Aizawa asks with a sigh, shoulder slumping and head tipping back. Izuku snorts. Don't be dramatic. You'll end up making Momo apologize or something. Momo's mouth is already open, but she snaps it shut and blushes a little when Izuku says that. I was going to apologize, should I not? We're out in the hall because of me. No, we're here because of me, Izuku insists, setting a hand briefly on her arm, the way that she had done to him the day before. He turns back to Aizawa. Momo and I talked about her quirk, and I think she should work with you on figuring out a meal and exercise plan based around the fact that her creation requires lipids. I don't think it would be a good idea for her to push herself too much until she gets her caloric intake up more. After thinking for a moment and making sure he's a half step behind Momo, he puts his hands up to sign. I also think that she's being pressured into being skinny at home, and in a way that's unhealthy and manipulative, but that's not really my place to push. Aizawa watches him for a moment before nodding. All right. I don't have anything scheduled for a free period today, aside from going over your quirk self-assessments from yesterday, so we'll just count that as yours. Yaoyorozu, after I take attendance, you can come up to the front and we'll talk about setting up a meal plan for you. You'll have to get it approved by Recovery Girl, and she'll likely be the one monitoring you. Momo nods, and Izuku watches her lift the tissue that she had taken to dab under her eyes again. Thank you. Really, I don't think my parents believe me. Izuku slips another chocolate into her palm, and she turns to him at the contact, but closes her fist around the candy anyway. He smiles at her. I believe you. Aizawa-sensei believes you. Quirks may just be a tool, but they can have a real effect on our bodies. Mine causes rapid stamina depletion and frostbite if I use it too much, so I train to increase my stamina, and to keep hand warmers in my bag, and they'll be in my pocket of my hero costume, too. Oh, God, my hero costume! Momo puts a hand to her mouth and turns a horrified expression toward Aizawa. My parents designed it, but... Aizawa holds out a hand. I already flagged it and sent it back. That's another thing that we can talk about during homeroom, and you weren't the only one, so don't worry. Why costumes aren't approved by any of the teachers before they're sent off to be made, I'll never know. That is dumb, Izuku agrees. We're going to go back to class now. Can you give us a head start so that we have time to be in our seats before you come in? 30 seconds. Izuku squeaks and grabs Momo's hand, pulling her back where they came from. Thanks, Dad. He laughs when they round the first corner, and he releases his hold on Momo soon after. Thank you for listening to me, he says when they're almost to the door, and for complimenting my analysis. It's something I really enjoy doing, and I want to help as much as I can. Izuku. Momo pauses just outside of the door so that she can fully turn to him. After a brief pause, she bows, much like Todoroki had done at the recommendation exam. Thank you. Sincerely from the bottom of my heart, I never would have had the nerve to ask for anything that we talked about, and you just gave it to me. Yaoyorozu-san, Momo, please don't... It's okay, you're welcome. Please stop bowing to me. His face is warm, embarrassingly so, but when Momo straightens with a soft laugh, Izuku can't help but smile at her. Just promise you'll take care of yourself. That's all the thanks I need. They enter the room together, and after being seated for no more than 3 seconds, Aizawa enters the classroom. Everyone is faster to their seats today, and Izuku reaches out impulsively to run his fingers along Hitoshi's back as soon as he's sitting down. Hitoshi obligingly leans back into the touch, and Izuku smiles softly to himself. This is good. This is going to be a good day. Izuku should have known better. Really, he should have. This is UA, there's no way anything is going to be easy, and the worst part is that Izuku should have seen this coming. He knew that Yagi-san would be teaching this year. He even knew that he would be teaching fundamental heroics, but the moment that All Might walks into the room, like a normal person, something inside of Izuku's shutters closed. He's never been in tune with his instincts, not the way that he knows Aizawa and Hisashi are, but something bad is going to come of this class, he just knows it. But hey, at least they get their hero costumes. Izuku and Hitoshi had finalized their designs early during the spring break, making sure to ask for the opinions of both Aizawa and Hisashi, and then, when functionality was approved, they asked Auntie Kayama to help with the look and presentation. Her own hero persona is extreme, but that doesn't mean she doesn't know what she's talking about. She does. After dismissal from both Aizawa and All Might, there's a distinction now in Izuku's brain. The 7-foot-tall behemoth of a man is All Might, and the hunched skeleton who hadn't helped with the villain attack is Yagi-san. All of Class 1A grabs either their costume cases or their gym uniforms and makes their way into the changing rooms. Izuku's vibrating with excitement. Finding it difficult to undo the clasps on his metal case, Hitoshi unfairly isn't struggling at all and reaches over to help him. Deep breath, Izuku, he says, voice low to not draw attention to them. With a nod, Izuku sucks in a deep breath and then locks himself in a stall. Same one as before, and he's pretty sure he's going to be able to call this his stall soon, when he begins changing into his costume. He had to design it with 2 things in mind, freedom of movement and the durability to take a hit. Izuku knows that he's a tank despite the fact that his quirk is best suited for long-range fighting. He has stamina and power, and, with any luck, he'll be able to train to use Amahaki in close quarters. But he's angling for underground heroics, and that means he needs to be able to move however he wants and blend in with the darkness. His costume reflects that perfectly. His top is a partial turtleneck black tank top with an armored chest and midsection, ideal for taking punches, stitched right into the fabric. Along his ribs, the armor fades off into a slash-proof material that allows for bending and easier movement. His shoulders are left bare, but he has full armbands, made from the same material as his gloves, that extend from wrist to bicep. His pants are armored on the thighs and down his shins, with the rest being the same slash-proof lightweight material as his top. The hems tuck into the black combat boots that lace up past his ankles. All the stitching is teal, and there are teal accents in key locations, 2 lines down the outside of each armband, 2 lines that fold over his top, from his shoulders down to his waist, following the break lines of the different materials used in the costume, then continue on down his pants as well. At his waist is a gray belt with multiple pouches that are already full of his requested materials, hand warmers, first aid supplies, small water bottles, and he quickly shoves another pouch full of the rest of the chocolates for Momo. The last piece of the costume is a black respirator that he hangs around his neck. By the time he finishes dressing and steps out into the main area of the changing room, Hitoshi's waiting for him against the lockers, and fuck, he looks good. Hitoshi's costume is built far more for stealth and less for taking hits, so it's more similar to Aizawa's hero costume than Izuku's. Loose black cargo pants tuck into tall black combat boots. His top is tighter, though, showing off the physique that he's spent so long building up, but it's loose where it matters to give him more movement. His capture weapon is around his neck, hiding a respirator so it's identical to Izuku's, and his folded-up quarterstaff is tucked into his black belt. He has fewer color accents than Izuku does, but the stitching is purple, and there are some color designs along his sleeves that look familiar. Are those? Izuku swallows, reaching out slowly to trace the dark purple fabric. A mahogany. Yeah. Hitoshi smiles at him, soft and warm. I wanted to surprise you. This is not the place for Izuku to start crying, but his eyes well up anyway. He doesn't care that his classmates are around them, most still changing into their costumes. Izuku crashes into Hitoshi and hugs him tight around the waist, burying his face against Hitoshi's shoulder. Thank you. It's beautiful. When he steps back, he pulls up his right hand to sign. I love you. Hitoshi, damn him, doesn't blush, and he has the most self-assured smirk on his face that Izuku's ever seen. I love you too. He signs in return. Dudes! Kirishima exclaims, walking right up to them with a broad grin on his face. You two look so awesome! Are you guys going to be ninjas or something? Kaminari asks, draping his arm over Kirishima's shoulder as he does. Izuku laughs as he takes in the costumes of the boys in front of him. He has some concerns about Kaminari's, but it's fine for now. Maybe he can nudge Kaminari toward Hisashi so that they can talk about protection versus style, but that's for a different day. Or something, he agrees with a smile. We're going for underground heroics, so it's dark colors, mobility, and protection over style. The 4 of them walk out together, with Izuku at the lead. Punctuality is important, and even if Aizawa isn't teaching this class, Izuku doesn't want to be late. Kaminari looks around, the empty field in front of them. Does anybody know where ground beta is? Izuku blinks. Oh, I guess all might left already. Izuku pulls out his phone from his belt pouch, and he calls Todoroki. Since he's one of the students who only had to change into their gym uniforms because his hero costume was flagged. Hi, Todoroki-kun, are you and the others at ground beta? Izuku, yes, All Might walked in with Yayorozu-san, Uraraka-san, Koda-kun, Hagakure-san, and myself. Are you lost? Oh, no, I know where I'm going. I just want to make sure that everyone else got there. I'll wait for the others then. Izuku's going to have to tell Aizawa about this. He has to. Even if there's nothing Aizawa can do about it, Izuku's going to bitch his ear off about All Might's lack of teaching awareness. Who the hell looks at 5 students, decides that's the whole class, takes off without everyone else? Can you text me if anyone else arrives? I'll let you know when I leave here. Of course. Thanks, Todoroki-kun. Izuku hangs up with a sigh. Looks like I'm chaperoning today. He doesn't even try for a smile. Hitoshi, however, bless him, barks out a laugh, and Kirishima and Kaminari are soon to follow. Apparently no one else had left yet, because 3 minutes later the entire class, minus the 5 getting their costumes reworked, are standing around Izuku watching him count heads. When he finishes, he gives a thumbs up to everyone. All right, follow me. Ground beta's thankfully close to here. They make it to all of 2 steps before someone takes up the empty space on Izuku's left. Hitoshi's on his right, their hands brushing with every step. Izuku's unsurprised to look over and see Mina, though Kaminari and Sero are close behind her. Friend groups are already forming, then. You seem really confident with navigating UA, Mina says, voice friendly and open. Jiro said that Momo mentioned you knew exactly where the teacher's lounge was, and now you know the way to ground beta, too. Izuku's finger starts subconsciously tapping out patterns against his thumb. I'm sorry. Is that a bad thing? No, no! Mina waves her hands between them like she's warding off the very thought. I'm so sorry. I have a bit of a pushy personality. No, it's not a bad thing. I'm just curious. UA is a really high security and everything, so I just think it's interesting, and actually interesting, not bitchy interesting, that you know so much about everything. So Izuku finds himself explaining to Mina, and apparently, by extension, the entire class, about his year of homeschooling with Aizawa, and how, in his case, homeschooling meant following his dad around campus like a lost little duck. He's just finished making Kaminari promise to never go looking for the secret teachers' hallways when they arrive at ground beta. Ah, All Might's voice booms out as soon as they approach. 1A, I'm glad to see you all found your way. Hitoshi snorts, and Izuku elbows him to make sure that he doesn't say anything. Unfortunately, he doesn't have enough elbows for the rest of the class. We wouldn't have by ourselves, Shoji says, two of his large arms crossed over his chest. Mina jabs her thumb in Izuku's direction. Exactly. It's a good thing that Izuku knows the campus layout, or, well, we would have been very lost. All Might meets Izuku's gaze for the first time all morning. Izuku stares back unblinking, and he can't help the feeling of satisfaction he gets when All Might breaks eye contact first. Right, that's my fault. Apologies, students. Nezu hired this guy? Fucking why? It's well established of a fact that Nezu is the second smartest being in the world when his quirk is on. His IQ score is technically the highest, but there is a woman in Norway who has an unquirked IQ that is only 2 points lower than Nezu's, and God knows the world can't be fair to anyone that sees it as lesser than, which is why Izuku's so confused by All Might's hiring. He's not smart. He's clearly not a good teacher. Why the fuck is he here? Is it just because he's injured and they're starting to ease him into retirement? It's going to be a long day. He can feel it in his bones. Well, All Might claps his hands, the force of it sending out a small shockwave of air that kicks up dirt for a moment. Izuku squints through it, and several of his classmates cough. Today we're going to be doing a series of battle trials. After relative silence from the class, All Might reaches into a hidden pocket and pulls out a piece of paper where he starts reading from, Dear God. During the entrance exam, you were all faced with an open area battle, except for the recommendation students who only had to run an obstacle course. So today, we're going to focus on fighting indoors. Izuku looks over when he feels a nudge against his side, and he finds Hitoshi signing at him. Why is this guy a teacher? No idea, Izuku signs back. I have a bad feeling, though. All Might's still talking, so Izuku tunes back in to listen. You have a class of 20, so I'm going to divide you up into teams of 2 by pulling your names out of a hat. Naturally. And then I'll assign your teams as either the heroes or the villains. Heroes will be tasked with... Izuku stops listening and immediately turns his attention to Hitoshi beside him, whose breath hitched as soon as the word villain fell out of All Might's mouth. His light purple eyes are already a little glassy, a little distant, so Izuku dismisses his attention from the class around him and does what he has to do. Slowly, because Hitoshi is just as shy to hands coming at him when he's like this as Izuku is all the time, Izuku puts his hands on Hitoshi's shoulders and guides him backwards, one step at a time. He knows they're drawing attention, but he can still hear All Might talking, so they're not technically disrupting class. At least, even if a proper fucking teacher would have noticed by now. But that's not Izuku's concern at the moment. He pushes Hitoshi backwards until they're behind the rest of the class by a good meter at least. Then he cups Hitoshi's face in both of his hands and directs his gaze down to him. Hey there, he murmurs, smiling almost shyly at Hitoshi as he brushes his thumbs over sharp cheekbones. You're okay. I'm not going to let you fall into a panic attack right now, okay? Do you trust me? Hitoshi nods once, and even that looks strange, like it's all he can manage. That's fine. Izuku can work with that. It's not often that he's on the other side of a panic attack, trying to calm someone else away from their fears. But this isn't the first time, and he knows how to get Hitoshi back to him before it gets worse. Thank you for trusting me. I'm going to undo the top clasp on your costume, okay? Another nod, and Izuku smiles as a reward before removing his hands from Hitoshi's face to do just that. Is he okay? Todoroki's voice comes from a short ways to Izuku's right, not too close, but close enough. He will be, Izuku responds, eyes still on Hitoshi, smile still encouraging Hitoshi's attention. Can you keep everyone else back for a moment? They're being respectful, Todoroki assures, though it sounds like he turns around to form a wall of one anyway. That's one less thing to worry about then. Izuku returns to his task, finally undoing the top clasp and peeling back the neck guard on Hitoshi's costume. A silver necklace chain is instantly visible against Hitoshi's skin, and Izuku's smile grows. I knew this would be here, he says, lifting one hand back to Hitoshi's cheek while his other pulls at the chain until the pendants come spilling out. Do you know why? Hitoshi makes a wounded sound before shaking his head. No, he croaks, but at least he's talking. Because I have mine on too, Izuku says, like it's the easiest thing in the world to admit. He loves Hitoshi so much that it hurts sometimes. Like now, when Izuku's trying to rebuild the piece of Hitoshi that's always breaking away at the thought of someone calling him a villain. He lifts Hitoshi's hand, curls it around the pendants. Take a deep breath for me. Hitoshi does, and it's not shaky. You're not a villain, Shinzo Hitoshi. If you end up on a villain team, I'll switch with you, okay? I know you're strong enough to handle it, but you shouldn't have to. So let me handle it today. If our classmates are the type of people to say someone has a villainous quirk, then I'll give them something to really be afraid of. You'll look like a kitten in comparison. A laugh chokes out of Hitoshi's mouth, and Izuku watches as his face and the rest of his body relaxes, still smiling, Izuku hooks his hand around Hitoshi's neck and pulls him down until Hitoshi's forehead is against Izuku's shoulder. You're ridiculous, Hitoshi whispers. Izuku chooses not to answer, so he buries a very quick kiss in Hitoshi's hair instead. Young Aizawa, All Might calls, stepping closer. Is everything all right? There's a fury that builds hot and fast behind Izuku's sternum, and he's honestly not sure how much of that tangled, awful feeling is Amahaki rising with his own emotions. Did you look at the roster that Aizawa-sensei gave you yesterday? He asks instead of answering. What? Izuku twists his head to stare at All Might. He's not glaring, as much as he wants to, no. He's emulating Aizawa in every fiber of his being, a very carefully blank look, taking over his features as his fingers massage slow circles into the back of Hitoshi's neck. The adjusted roster, the one with notes on it about all of our quirks and us, and any other relevant information that you would need to conduct class properly. I know he gave it to you, because I watched him work on it last night. Did you read it? There's a shuffle as some of the other students walk closer to Izuku and Hitoshi, subsequently putting themselves farther away from All Might. Just out of the corner of his eye, Izuku recognizes Momo, Mina, Todoroki, Kirishima, and, shockingly, Bakugo. My boy, I told you not to call me that, Izuku hisses. It's evident now that the feeling in his chest is, in fact, just his anger, because Amahaki is elsewhere under his skin. Cinching around his shoulders and squeezing down his arms, thrashing around in response to Izuku's desire to lash out, but he keeps himself in check. You're lucky that I'm confident you're not being malicious, or else I would already be calling Aizawa-sensei and Principal Nezu right now. So let me spell this out for you so that a mistake like this doesn't happen again. All Might is listening. The whole class is listening. Izuku's never had a problem standing up to people more powerful than him, not since he became Aizawa's son. You were given that roster because some of us have a really shitty history with our quirks. You were given that roster so that you could plan a lesson for the first day of school, that you wouldn't push any of us out of our comfort zones. You were given that roster so that you would know that some of us have been slapped in the face with the word villain since our quirks first emerged. Hitoshi straightens up, breathing now under control, and tucks his necklace back into his costume. Izuku's relieved to see that Todoroki immediately approaches him, giving him space, but leaning into it as low words are exchanged. But Izuku isn't done. You want to have battle trials? Fine. You want to pit 15-year-olds against each other under the labels of heroes and villains, despite how mentally detrimental that can be? Fine. But you're going to draw partners first, and then you're going to assign us heroes and villains. Because if you put Hitoshi or Tokiyami or Mina on a villain team, so help me, I will walk out of this class right now, and I know I won't be alone. All right, listeners, this concludes Chapter 26 of Swallow the Stars. Chapter 27 will be next. Hope you all are enjoying this fic still. Let me know your thoughts and reactions as always, though. Thank you so much for listening.